everything you thought you knew about this story just changed overnight. Because for the first time, the silence broke not from a lawyer, not from a studio, not from a publicist, but from the one voice no one expected to hear. And what she said just split the internet in half. While another viral backlash ignites a brand new firestorm, and a courtroom battle quietly threatens to rewrite the rules. Stay with me, because every layer of this story is about to unravel right now. Morning breaks differently when the entire timeline feels like it is holding its breath, and that is exactly where we find ourselves today. Because nothing about this situation feels calm, nothing feels settled, and nothing feels predictable anymore. What began months ago as industry whispers and scattered reactions has now transformed into a full-scale narrative that no one can control. And just when it seemed like every secret had already been unearthed, every angle already debated, and every theory already exhausted, a new voice entered the conversation and shifted everything at once. Because when someone speaks who has nothing to gain from performance and nothing to lose from honesty, the impact lands differently. And that is exactly why this latest development has sent shockwaves through every corner of the audience. Because for the first time, the response did not come from a legal strategy or a media machine. It came from loyalty, from instinct, from a refusal to bend, and from a line drawn with absolute clarity. And the reason people cannot stop talking about it is because it revealed something deeper than documents ever could. It revealed motive, it revealed resolve, and it revealed that behind every high-profile dispute, there are quieter decisions being made that determine everything long before the public ever sees a headline. For months, the public has watched this story unfold through fragments, court filings, statements from representatives, selective leaks, and online reaction cycles that spin faster than confirmation can keep up with. And in that fog of information, people picked sides, formed opinions, and locked into narratives that felt solid until suddenly they did not. And now, with the release of newly surfaced private exchanges, the entire emotional weight of this conflict feels different. Because these were not carefully worded public statements shaped to survive scrutiny. These were immediate, real-time reactions formed under pressure without the protection of public filters. And when those words surfaced, they did not sound calculated. They sounded final. And what stunned so many people was not only the strength of the response, but the timing. Because this was not said after a conclusion was reached. This was said at the very moment compromise was still possible. And that is what has reframed everything for the audience. Because it was not a reaction to defeat. It was a declaration made in the middle of uncertainty. And that distinction changes how every prior move is now being interpreted. At the center of it all is a proposed statement, one that was designed to close the storm, reshape responsibility, and shift perception in one unified message. And on the surface, it looked like a standard public relations maneuver, the kind that appears during controversies when studios aim to regain control of the narrative. But what gave it a different weight is that this statement was never meant to come from the voice the public thought it would. It was drafted externally and presented as something that others were expected to take ownership of. And that is the moment where the tension reached its breaking point. Because behind closed doors, the question was no longer how to protect a brand or a project. It became how much of the truth should be carried quietly and how much should be resisted openly. And in that room, when that letter was presented, something shifted. Not gradually, not politely, but instantly and decisively, with the refusal so firm, it ended the discussion on the spot. And for many watching now, that refusal has become the emotional cornerstone of this entire saga. Because it revealed something deeper than documents ever could. It revealed motive, it revealed resolve, and it revealed that behind every high-profile dispute, there are quieter decisions being made that determine everything long before the public ever sees a headline. The audience response since that revelation has been explosive, not because of the legal implications alone, but because of the human element that now sits at the center of the story. People are not just watching professionals maneuver through strategy anymore. They are watching individuals make deeply personal choices under extraordinary pressure. And that is why the reaction has cut across fan bases, industry lines, and ideological boundaries. Because the moment was not framed as a legal stance, it was framed as a matter of principle. And when principle enters the room, everything changes. The surge of support that followed did not arise from marketing campaigns or coordinated influence. It came from identification, from the belief that standing firm under pressure is something universally understood. And that is why the phrase, now circulating online, has taken on a life of its own. Not as a slogan, but as a signal that many people believe a quiet strength finally spoke louder than public spin. And while all of this was unfolding, one layer of pressure was already building beneath it, because as trial timelines approach and sealed materials begin to surface, the rhythm of releases accelerates, each new detail arriving closer together, feeding speculation, feeding anticipation, and feeding the sense that this confrontation is no longer simmering, it is actively approaching impact. And with each new leak, every prior interpretation is being tested again, because what once felt certain no longer does, and what once seemed obvious now carries doubt. And as audiences revisit earlier statements, interviews, and decisions, they are now doing so with an entirely different lens. And that is the most powerful consequence of this single moment, because it did not just add one new detail to the timeline, it retroactively shifted how the entire story feels from its very beginning. As the storm of revelations continued to build, the public gaze shifted not only to the immediate confrontation, but to every ripple it created in adjacent spaces. Because the nature of these conflicts is that they are rarely isolated. Each action produces reaction, each decision triggers response, and each moment of defiance amplifies scrutiny. And what makes this particular situation so compelling is that every single element, from private text to public letters to online commentary, intersects to create a narrative web that cannot be ignored. And as this web expands, the lines between personal stakes, professional consequences, and cultural commentary blur to the point where everyone watching feels the weight of anticipation like a live wire across the internet. And social platforms and forums and comment sections have become the amplifiers for every micro detail that would have been ignored in any other era. And what viewers are witnessing now is not merely the unfolding of events, it is the shaping of perception in real time, with every message, every clip, every screenshot contributing to the emotional calculus of the audience. And as the public consumes and processes these moments, the story itself grows larger than the individual participants. Because once a narrative achieves this level of saturation, no single actor can contain it, and no strategic statement can fully correct it. And that is exactly why analysts, commentators, and observers are scrambling to understand which direction this momentum will carry next, because every interpretation is now contested and every assumption is being reconsidered. In parallel with the main narrative, a secondary current developed as other personalities involved in public debates and entertainment discourse began weighing in, knowingly or unknowingly intensifying the scrutiny. Because when figures comment on parenting, ambition, career balance, and personal choices in a very public medium, it ignites conversations that extend far beyond the original context. And when those comments are interpreted as judgment or critique, the response can be swift and visceral. And in this case, the response was amplified by the fact that the subject of commentary was herself already navigating major professional milestones, including roles that demanded relocation, intensive rehearsal schedules, and high public visibility. And the convergence of these elements created a feedback loop in which online attention magnified the intensity of real-life decisions, and public statements magnified the scrutiny on those decisions. And suddenly, a narrative that may have been primarily about one conflict became a much larger conversation about autonomy, support, and the intersection of professional achievement and personal life. And this dynamic illustrates how modern public discourse often collapses multiple threads into a single event, with consequences that ripple in unpredictable ways. As these social dynamics continue to unfold, legal undercurrents remained equally compelling, because beyond public commentary, the stakes in the courtroom were quietly growing more complex. And when courtroom footage, body camera evidence, and procedural arguments were introduced into the mix, the implications extended beyond the individual parties involved to affect broader legal precedent. Because questions surrounding constitutional protections, proper procedures, and admissibility of evidence create frameworks that impact not only the current case, but future enforcement of rights. And the attention to detail in these proceedings highlights the tension between immediate narrative resolution and long-term structural outcomes. And as the public watches from the outside, the contrast between fast-moving online reaction and methodical legal process underscores the complexity of modern conflicts. Because one operates on seconds, while the other operates on months and years. And this dual rhythm creates suspense naturally, as audiences wait for the resolution of both streams simultaneously, knowing that each will influence the other. Meanwhile, policy discussions in other countries began intersecting with these cultural dynamics, further complicating the landscape. Because as social media regulations, debates over youth protection algorithms, and digital consumption enter the public sphere, they introduce questions about behavioral influence, ethics, and developmental psychology that cannot be ignored. And when legislation moves quickly, it sets precedents that echo across industries and borders, influencing both the behavior of private actors and public perception of responsibility. And as governments consider restrictions or bans for certain age groups, the discussion about addiction, autonomy, and accountability enters every household, in every school, in every online forum, in a way that mirrors the attention paid to celebrity behavior. Because fundamentally, these issues all reflect the same underlying tension between individual choice, societal expectations, and the impact of technology on human behavior. And as these threads intersect, the narrative is no longer linear. It is a network of decisions, outcomes, and interpretations, all influencing one another in ways that are both visible and unseen. And in the midst of all this, the individuals at the center continue to act and respond in real time, and the decisions they make under pressure continue to define the arc of the story. Because when a public figure refuses to adopt a proposed narrative or stands firm against external pressure, it changes not only their own trajectory, but the trajectory of everyone watching and everyone involved. And what is striking is the clarity with which these choices are now viewed by audiences. Because once a moment of resistance becomes public, it is no longer solely a private action. It is transformed into a cultural signal, a statement of values, and a catalyst for conversation. And as each new development arrives, it adds layers of meaning and interpretation that reinforce suspense and compel continued attention. And that is exactly why viewers remain glued to this unfolding saga, because every word, every decision, and every reveal carries implications far beyond the immediate context. And the story has evolved from simple conflict to a complex reflection on loyalty, resilience, ambition, and the way human decisions reverberate in an interconnected world. And just like that, everything shifts again, because what seemed resolved is still unfolding, The players are still moving behind the scenes, and the public is still watching every message, every reaction, every reveal. And as the next chapter approaches, no one knows exactly what will happen, but one thing is clear. The choices made today will echo tomorrow, and the story is far from over. So stay close, because when the dust settles, you are going to want to know every single detail, and nothing you think you know right now will prepare you for what comes next.